Sound check. Good stuff, TG. And just taking a look here. No, I don't have any CRWV. I've been out of that for a little bit. And yeah, what goes up, must come down kind of a situation there. And not a lot of momentum happening today in the indexes. Very quiet. We'll take a couple different looks here, but if we go back here and this is, we look at the S&Ps here, from this morning, we did have that nice move this morning, and there was some momentum there. I shared that chart earlier, did the put credit spread, and then I was kind of working out. I missed this down move. We got the retest and did a call credit spread. We flushed. I thought we are going to get a slower move, possibly down to 59.40 on the S&Ps, and instead we just got this big bounce. So now we're just kind of looking to see, like, all right, from here, are we going to kind of work our way down or work our way up? The jury is still a little bit out. You can see that since we fell, this kind of falling 8 EMA on the 15-minute has been resistance, and just kind of hanging out there. If we look at, let me get rid of the fibs here. It's generally on the 30-minute chart. You can see we've got the squeeze setting up to the downside. We've got, I'll clear this. Let me clear off the drawings. Hello, hello. Come on, Thinkorswim, you can do it. Wow, I do have a lot of charts open right now, as I've been playing around with different settings and things like that. So when I get that cleaned up, this will be a little bit faster. So if we step back here and just kind of look at the 30-minute chart, kind of with the Momo stuff, it's been a little quiet. And the 30-minute chart, I look at more for kind of bigger moves and things like that. And if we look at this, some of the things that I like about this, here we had a 30-minute squeeze. You can see you get momentum right up to the fire line. And then when you get that reversal signal, it's kind of out. But then what I also like is there's a lot of comfort in gray. And what gray means is there's no action. And that means you're typically not going to get some puke. Like if you're going to get a puke, you need to see the yellow momentum to the downside. And so you drift down, drift down, drift down, you get the reversal, and then, another squeeze, and bada boom, bada bing. So the 30-minute, and that, those are trades that could happen overnight and stuff like that. And then right now, as we're kind of, we had some action this morning, but we've had a lot of pressure. And when I see, yellow like this, that's indicating downside momentum, I'm kind of like, all right, well, when you have momentum, that's when it can push through a voodoo line. And we do have a squeeze setting up. So I've got a call credit spread on. I'm a little underwater on it. I got in, frankly, a little late, or a little early, I guess you would say. But everything's still teed up here that we could kind of roll over into the close a little bit. We'll see. I like Microsoft. I like Meta. I'm not in Tesla, but I'm watching it as kind of an indicator here, because if that starts to bounce, I think the S&Ps will bounce. And if you look at the Tesla momentum, again, not something I traded today. It's you kind of pick your battles, but pretty astounding. And then if we look at the S&Ps on this right now, as it sets up here, and I was talking about this earlier. So on this, I've kind of looked at, I've got the 2-minute and the 5-minute and the 15-minute, and what I look for on this is the 2-minute is, here we were kind of rallying. And then if you get a sell signal and like the yellow momentum, that's a good sign that it's ready to roll over. And then the other thing is that if you get a rally back to a fib level and it's gray, and I'll talk about this tonight in the webinar, that's a good indication that you're not going to blow through it. So there's so gray is actually good too. Gray can be kind of depending on what you're looking at there. It's like, okay, if I don't want it to blow through that, yeah, you want it to be gray. You don't want it to turn blue. And then right now we're just kind of all over the place. And if we're looking at, some of the kind of key stocks and things like that, Meta's flat on the day. We've got, possible pins setting up for tomorrow at 700. Probably do a little cleanup there. Microsoft is just, a champ. If Microsoft wasn't this strong, the S&Ps would be a lot, I think, they'd be under a lot more pressure today. You can see the SPX on this 30-minute chart. We got that squeeze setting up right now to the downside. I think tomorrow we could easily rally with the non-farm payrolls, but certainly, we are at key overhead resistance levels, and I don't necessarily think we're going to blow through them, but I think that the idea we could push through 6,000 at least for a test makes sense. So that's what we got there. Let's look at a couple of our positions. In fact, why don't we just bring this up here? So on a 30-minute chart, if we're looking at Microsoft. Oh, and also too, the two things I'm looking at as we get into the close. So ticks, obviously, we had that big spike down. That was a big tick reading, and then we immediately kind of ramped back up. Now we're just kind of hanging out here, and then just keep an eye on the VIX. Keeping an eye on the VIX here. So the VIX, it's been a little all over the place today. It's traded as high as a little over 18, as low as 17. We've been used to these 5 and 6 point ranges. This is kind of quiet, but we're kind of, keep an eye here. If the VIX starts popping here into the close, we're going to flush. And again, I think today's close is today's close. I think tomorrow will be a much different day. Microsoft at all-time highs right now. And then, so let's look at our Microsoft trade, because we do have some of the stuff that's expiring tomorrow. So for our longer term call debit spread, 15 days out, that's looking pretty solid. I like the idea of holding this into tomorrow. We're at new all-time highs. We're in what's called blue sky territory. We also have this butterfly, and man, I forgot how much I hate 5-point wide butterflies. The stock's moved pretty good, and the butterfly's up, 50 cents. And I'm kind of half joking, but it makes me really appreciate 10, 15, and 25-point wide butterflies. So basically, we want to hold on to this tomorrow, because tomorrow's if this thing's going to pay off, it's going to be tomorrow. And then Meta. So Meta, we've structured this a little bit differently. So Meta, if you recall, we sold this put credit spread, at $2 to kind of help finance our $10 wide butterfly. And so the $10 wide butterfly, at least a little bit more traction here. So what I'm going to do at this point is that even though we have some cushion here, risking, we got to acknowledge that Meta could gap down 10 points tomorrow, right? And I would be fine. It's like going, okay, well, if this is $2 and we gap down 10 points, I can manage that. But if we've got a point of profit here and we gap down 10 points and suddenly, that's now we're, that could go sideways pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I got a little slow action happening here. And I'm not going to be a dick for a tick here. Let me just get out. Do not be dick for tick, eh? Goal is accomplished. Oh, it just popped there for a second. No, Jonathan, I almost want to put on an iron fly on the SPX for tomorrow. I think it's, I think the market has kind of absorbed a lot at this point. So we'll look at AVGO and SPX for tomorrow. All right. For Meta, I'm going to hold my call debit spread and butterfly for tomorrow, but I'm going to go ahead and book the put credit spread here at current levels. Yeah, so we'll just kind of look at that. I mean, I think this market has had a lot thrown at it, and so I think the idea that it can handle anything at this point, makes a lot of sense. All right, so we looked at Meta and Microsoft. The other one we want to look at here is I did pick up some Futu yesterday. Somebody asked me about weed stocks. I just am not interested in that. It doesn't mean that there's not a trade there. It's just, I just think there's other things to do. It's like, when you go to Disneyland, you don't have to ride every ride. It's like, hey, I want to do Space Mountain, and I'm good. Okay, that's a weekly chart, daily chart. Coming down to the 21. I would be totally fine adding to this trade. So let's look at where it is now. Futu. So I do like when it's a little stretched like that, I typically will scale in to give me room to add to it. And I don't mind picking up some here at current levels. And then also even doing, possibly one more. I'm a huge fan of, especially if it's bounced, because it's like, all right, well, it may rip here, but it may come back. And when it comes back, you shouldn't be like, oh, damn, you know, it's not working. It's like, oh, great, I can add to this position. But you don't want to martingale it. Like, you don't want to average your way out of it. You just want to plan and say, like, okay, I'm not gonna, I want to be able to kind of standard operating procedure there. So if I want to build up a 60 contract position, then I can, I got one more bullet there in the gun. For Futu, I'm going to add to it as it comes back to visit its 21 EMA. Yeah, let's look at those two. Yeah, let me show you when I talk about, I can talk. So if you look at this is what made me kind of, when I got the call credit spread earlier, I started looking at the buildup here. And when I say like a charm pocket, I'll say like right here, it's kind of, see where the red and the purple meet. That can be kind of a place where we end up. It doesn't mean that we will, but that kind of becomes a magnet. And so that's 59.50. And then if it got really ugly, we could end up down at 58.60. I absolutely do not expect that to happen, but this is a weird market right here. And then there's also this here at 59.20. So what I kind of like today is the idea that, we may flush and just buying some cheap out of the money puts and letting them cash settle just in case we absolutely puke. I'm not saying that we will. I think 59.50 here looks pretty good, at least, for that call credit spread that we did and taking a little bit of heat on, except for you got, whoever got it at $11, you crushed that one. So so that's looking good there. So, but this has me a little scared. Now, there's not anything here, but that's just, I'm being facetious, right? Not like, oh my god, but it makes me think this close is a little effed up. This is going to be a different close than what we've seen. There's some possibilities for snafu. All right, so somebody said D-Dog. Let's look at that one. Yeah, you know what? Similar to, yeah, look, it looks great. This is the thing, like with Futu as well. Your best entry is going to be closer to the 21 EMA. So if you're buying here, you're just kind of like, all right, well, I can add to it if it comes down, which is fine. And then I think the other one was Duolingo, if I'm spelling that right. They got a lot of backlash when they came out and just said, yeah, we just, we're using AI now. So I like that too. 21 EMA all day long. All right, let's come back here and look at the indexes. We are getting some weakness. Let's look at, so same thing here. So see when we come up here, so I got the momentum on this chart, right? This was the futures we rallied up to that 4-hour quant pivot H2, and then when we went gray, that's kind of a sign that that's all you're going to get. And so, which is great. And then, and same thing here on this rally. See how it's gray, but when you get momentum and you come up to a level, you can blow right through it. And all right, so S&Ps here. Let's see if we can actually break to new lows. I actually feel like I need to get some more downside action here. So on our call credit spread, I want to go ahead and exit. Let's see if we break here. I'm going to go ahead and exit. Yes. Suck on this. All right, this may happen very quickly, so I'm just going to get out. We got it. I got the shittiest entry at 690. I think some of you guys got it at 11. That's great. Let's go ahead and get out. And a fair question might be like, well, if you think it's going to go lower, why don't you just hold on to it? Well, I like it lower and it's still going lower, but if it reverses very quickly, it's hard to get out of a spread. So I actually, I'd rather buy a cheap put here and risk the debit than, risk this thing just because it's hard to get out of it. Spreads are a pain in the ass if the market is moving against you. But we should be able to get out of this. Yeah, come on. There we go. Bam. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Puke, puke, puke. Pukey, pukey. Who got it at 11? Please tell me you held on to it. Oh, out at 8. Oh, that's okay. No, where is he? But where's the guy that got it at 11? Federico. Do you still have it? Did you get out? Tell me what your exit was. I'm waiting with bated breath here. Not in at 10 at 2.5. Yeah. Okay. No, that's not bad. You crushed it, Federico. Nice work. Okay. Yeah, I love it because I got in and you guys got like better entries than me. And then so I love it. All right, so legit sell off, right? This is what I was looking for. And I'm a little miffed that I did not aggressively get puts because now it's kind of too late. Let's see what we're looking at on the Momo here. Again, I'm watching 6 different screens, so if we look at so again, just as kind of a reminder here, you can kind of see this is the 1 hour, 30 minute, 20 minute, 10 minute, 4 minute. So you can see the Momo. When you see that, it gives you comfort to kind of hang on for a little bit more. Again, spreads that for directional. And then if we look at the labels here, then we can see. I mean, I haven't seen this in a while. Hold on, let me get a screenshot. This is a good example for tonight. Oh my God, Tesla. We got to buy calls at the close tonight on Tesla because this is overdone. $57. I'm sure his mom is tweeting him right now, like, "Boy, you need to keep your mouth shut." Look at that. So now on the 2-minute, look at this. Jeez. Okay, I'm a little frankly, I mean, I'm being facetious when I was talking about let's get some puts because this thing may collapse into the close, that I didn't just grab the puts, but that's okay. Did I yeah, Tesla's going down with every Elon. So I will buy calls on Tesla on the close because this is so overdone. Okay, so now, man, so much for a choppy close. All right, let's come back here and look at Trace. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's so funny doing this when it's like your platform is slow answering questions. And look at this. Okay, so look at this. So we've come right down to this charm pocket, right? Doesn't mean we're going to end up there, but we've tested it. But this is in play now. Now, if I come over here at 58.60, there's nothing here. So maybe that's not going to happen. But that's in play. So just that's a little hairy if we were gonna puke that far into the close. So I kind of want to get something just in case that actually happens. So now, now look, here's the secret to this because you can't. So if you made money today, you cannot do a trade that would risk you that going to negative. Okay. So if I was going to do 100 contracts, I'm not going to buy 100 contracts of the 59.50 in the money puts at 25 because if that reverses on my ass so fast that I struggle to get out of it, like and I lose 8 points on it, then I go negative on the day. Okay, that's just called irresponsible trading. However, if there's the potential this thing this absolutely crushes to the downside, these 5,900 puts are interesting. But I want to see if first we can get a little, again, look at this. Look, likely this is going to hold, but this is in play. That's kind of a scary close if that actually happens. So when I'm looking at this, I just have to realize that these will probably go to zero. And keep in mind that I was doing 100 lots. I'm just going to do 10 on this with the idea that it could go to zero. So if you were doing 10 lots, I would do one contract. If you were doing one contract, I would pass on this trade because the odds of this going to zero are pretty high. Okay, so I'm not even gonna post it because if someone's like just getting the alert and they're like, oh my God, I gotta make a big bet on this. This is not what this trade. This is just there's some weird pockets down there. This is probably gonna go to zero, but it might it might go to 20. So hopefully that all made sense. There's there's a difference between what I would call pure speculation and a planned out trade. Yes, XSP, absolutely. Yeah, now so I just kind of wanted to grab it and then now let's come back here and we'll give it a minute cuz look again, this is a long shot. This is a long shot, but it's a shot. And the way the market's acting here is kind of crazy. We could also easily come back up to 59.50, which frankly is more likely. All right. So hopefully that all makes sense. We're not yellowing our life here. This big negative at 59.55, that's kind of a magnet, as is 59.45. Okay. But so that's good. That's more likely. Okay. So again, hopefully that all makes sense. All right. So the other trade then, what we can do on this, again, I fully expect this to go to zero, right? If it doesn't, I'll be fine. But we're just, again, I'm just talking, just telling you out loud what I'm doing. Speculative trade, smaller size. So then, 59.50 is kind of in play. So what does that look like? What time is it? 2:23. Okay, it's too early for this. Let's give it a minute here. Oh, no, Federico, you killed it, man. You sold it at 11 and bought it back at like 5. You can make a living doing that. So that's when you're out of the trade, no, you don't want to start like fantasizing about having held it to the perfect. We all do it, right? But you just capture a decent chunk of the move. That's all. That's the name of the game. Yeah, Tyler, I'm looking at that too. So I almost like the idea of buying the 59.50 calls here as well. But we're a little early. I'm watching let's just give it a minute. Catch our breath. Holy crap, Elon is in the Epstein files. Is he's just declaring war? I'm not, okay, that's just pretty awesome. I mean, you go. I mean, Elon don't care. I don't know if that counts as balls of steel or brain cells of an amoeba. Um, yeah, we'll look at some potential. So I do want to look at Tesla here because I think this is a ridiculous move to the downside over tweets. And Friday tends to be an up day, right? So this would be the same thing, just kind of like a scorched earth policy. If we come over here and we look at the 280 calls, they're $8, right? That's insane. The $300 calls, a butterfly, I think a butterfly, frankly, is tricky just because the pricing mismatch there. I think the $300 calls though overnight, in case it just gaps and rips, is interesting risk to reward. Elon may be on a full-on ketamine trip right now, and he just absolutely doesn't care. And his mom's like, "Bro." Okay, so again, I'm gonna buy some $300 calls here for tomorrow. Again, I'm just risking the debit here, and I'm not. I don't want to point out here. This is an account where I'm fine doing 100 lots. I am not doing 100 lot. I'm doing a 10 lot. Okay, this is position size. If you're doing a bigger concentrated trade, you don't want it to be, you know, you don't want it to be a what's the word I'm trying to say? You don't want it to be. This isn't something that you should lose sleep over. This is just wow. This is kind of a pathetic overreaction. Now, if you want to do a bigger trade on something like this, you go out to next week and likely do like a debit spread. So, the 300, the 300, 320, something like that, which I actually kind of like that. So, that one I wouldn't mind doing a little bit bigger size because we have time on our side. So the 300, 325, $5. Okay. What are we willing to risk on that? A little bit more. This is what I'll post. So I'm going to do 25. Again, I'm not, this is not, since this is more speculative, if it's not like oh, this is a setup that I can manage, this is just like okay, this thing is overdone and I'm willing to take that bet. Let's see. All right. So let me post. Oh, that's when I'll post. It'd be nice. Okay. So I'm gonna hold this overnight. I'm not planning. I think the overnight move is the interesting move here. Okay. So things, and again, you can see kind of the big. So 59.20. Oh, this is rolled down. Okay, this is rolled down. This was like 2 minutes ago. This was up at 59.50. So the fact that that's rolled down, this door opens. This is gonna be a really super interesting close. Meta is holding up. It's only down, 3 points. Microsoft still up 3.5 points. Elon is like the what's funny is like, my kids, I've watched them, grow up on Roblox, and 14-year-olds roasting each other to death on Roblox, and they actually have zero emotional reaction to it. Like it's just normal. is hilarious because that's online. Like I think of answers, like I go, oh, well, I should have a thoughtful response here, and kids don't think like that. Elon is like a 14-year-old boy texting on Roblox. Yeah, I saw a PLTR crashed as well. That was weird. Yeah, I read an article. I think it was Tim Ferriss, and he had said something that long term, like ketamine for therapy, if you do it, doing it like 15, 20 times and like that, it does more long term damage. I'll try anything once, stuff like that, but it's like the idea, like anything like that you build into a habit, right? It's gotta be a little careful. I mean, it is for horses, right? All right, getting a little bit of a bouncy bounce here. Guess we should get some more Tesla. That thing's bouncing. Get that down 17% at its max today. A couple years ago for our horses, we gave them, I don't know if it was fentanyl. I don't know what it was. The vet gave us these drugs. They're like, do not take these, but you need to give them to your horses before the fireworks go off. I'm like, all right. So I gave it to them, and they all stood there watching the fireworks, like totally chill. It was hilarious. And then the next day I was out hiking, and like these are big horses, and four of them, they were up in my grill, like nuzzling me, like, got any more of that? Whatever you gave us yesterday, got any more of that? Come on, man, give us some more of it. 1,500-pound animals trying to corner me and shake me down. It might have been yeah, I'm not sure what it was. The vet was very much like, I'm not supposed to give this to you. Don't take it. I'm like, all right, small town vets, right? It's like, eh. All right, let's see what else here looks interesting. So not an impressive bounce in the indexes. I would like to do kind of another SPX/NDX trade here into the close. Yes, yeah, that was a filled trade. It's a little higher now, but it's fine. Like the premise here is we're not trying to like make 50 or 60 cents on this. I want to hold it overnight. I want to see what tweets come out tomorrow. Bitcoin's getting crushed. I haven't it's so much going on today. Let's take a look at BTC. Now look, when I talked about, remember that cycle high I was telling you about? That was on May 26th. That's a weekly chart. And since then we've just been dropping. So that's what I mean. Like the cycle highs, when they come in, like they don't work all the time, but they work a lot of the time. Like stocks kind of shook it off. But when it's kind of like, oh God, why is this coming down? It's just because these things do move in these kind of symmetrical cycles. Dissociative anesthetic. Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. All right, I'm just giving this a minute, guys. I just want to see how these markets are kind of shaping up here. Okay, I got that. La 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 la. Da, 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 da. Okay. Let's look at so Spotify. Yeah, let's look at some of the Bitcoin stuff. Spotify. Oh, before I forget, I have a friend of mine that works at this company. Again, just take this for what it is. Insiders are buying the crap out of the stock. some they're into crypto and doing some stuff like that too. Now it is kind of looks like it's down a little bit today with Bitcoin. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm just passing that along as an FYI. But the idea that whatever they're doing business wise, or they might get acquired. I don't have a position on it at the moment. I just wanted to share it before I forgot. Doesn't mean all that means is that somebody said something to me with some knowledge, but it doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. But it was from somebody that I would consider like, okay, that's something I want to pay attention to. So I've just got that on my watch list now, and I'll keep an eye on it. Oh, is it top 100? Nice. Okay. Yeah, no, HH, I did. I'll show it again, and I'll talk about it tonight too. So the nice thing about Momo, so like on the S&Ps, so a couple things. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but so here was so this is a great example of where I'm really finding it useful, because you want to know when there's momentum, but it's also just important to know when there's not momentum. So look at this: swing high, swing low. We get a rally into I think Trendy John calls this the golden pocket, but this was always my favorite. That between that 50 and 618, and there's no momentum. So if it's just kind of gray and it kind of lobs into this zone here, that's a great level to kind of get back in. And so that's great. So that's on the S&Ps. And then if we look at Tesla, so D here, as I understand it, it's a biopharma company, but it was bought or taken over by a crypto firm. And now, they're doing all this alt crypto stuff, and then they realize that the patent at the bio company is actually worth something. So it's just weird. It's just weird setup. I'm not saying I fully understand what's happening there, but that was something that kind of stood out to me. So what happened? I don't know if it was a SPAC or something like that, but essentially they did this transaction. They set aside the biopharma stuff, started focusing on crypto, and then they figured out that the biopharma stuff had some value. Yeah, no, Bruce, awesome. No, I love some of your comments. I really appreciated them. So you may see me saying some, reiterating some of that tonight. So Tesla, nice bounce here. So look at green arrow there. That when you see that, pretty solid area. And I think that's really what I found is interesting in this stuff too. Is it just kind of gives you confirmation, like you're not catching a falling piano or anything like that. All right, so S&Ps here are having a okay. Let's come back here. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just buy. I'm gonna buy some longer term alts just to. I just want to keep an eye on it because when I mention it and then I move on to the next thing, I could forget. So I'm just gonna go out to August. What is it at $10? Is there no volume? Look at that spread, shit, as my daughter would say. I'm just gonna come over here and say 10. I'm fine getting a little taken advantage of, but not completely taken advantage of. They're not going to give it to me? Okay, but oh, now I'm the bid. Yeah, screw you guys. Okay, I'm just gonna let me buy some shares real quick, and then I'll remember that I have it to talk about it. I'm just doing this just to remember that we talked about it. Okay, I'll post that, and then we'll just continue to watch it. Okay, buying 100 shares of this stock as well as 10 longer term calls, as it is something I want to keep an eye on. Crypto plus bio things happening. And then I'm just going to make that order GTC on the options because I don't think I'm going to get filled today. The market makers. Working this GTC order, thin and market makers scumbags. All right, let's come back. All right, so look at this. So we just got another kind of a walk-up rally back to the falling 8 EMA here. And now we're okay, 240. All right, that's what I was waiting for. So here we are at dose 40. I love markets like this. They don't really make any rhyme or reason, which is great. Okay. So now what we want to do is kind of come back where, there's a lot. Look, this is 59.20. Okay. But it's starting to build back up here. Again, we got a pocket here at 59.60 to the upside and then down here at 58.60. Now, I would say that 58.60 probably isn't going to happen. But up here and look, and the thing about it is we don't have to do a trade. So we got to, there's nothing. But this is scary. I mean, frankly, because I have seen markets do this, and so that's why we got that one kind of put that's sitting there. So this will be an interesting close. Yes, you know what? Gosh, I keep there's so many interesting things happening right now, and I forgot I was gonna buy some that platinum. Does anybody know the ETF? I know the futures. PPLT, thank you. Yeah, look at this move in platinum. PPLT. Yeah, great move. Hard. This is setting up to be one of the better moves of like this is going to rally into 2026. So it's tricky on stuff like this because now it's extended, right? But remember when there's a market having a move, it doesn't really care about the lines. From a trading perspective, not a great entry, right? But if it's one of those things where you're just looking to reallocate money, you just buy this ETF and hold it for a year. Yeah, the white metals here they're poised for a great rest of the year. Even SLV. So I'm going to be watching them for pullbacks. And then the other one here is palladium. I don't know if you guys remember when palladium went insane. It's kind of the weakest of them right now, but anyway, the white metals here are in fuego. CRWV, so again, good case study on gamma squeeze up, and then once everybody's blown out, coming back down to earth. Hard to trade this, but could we go all the way back? Could we go all the way back to 100? Absolutely. Absa-Smurfly, look, Absa-Smurfly. Again, hard to get excited about something overnight. So let's say, you want to buy the at the money straddle. It's $8. Well, we moved $30 today, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. And then if we look at something for next week and we think, oh, maybe there's gonna be some more downside. let's buy some at the money puts. They're $12. So it's just hard, it's hard to get it's just there were some good moves there, and then at some point it becomes dangerous. There's easier ways to make a living, so to speak. The fact though that we took this out, um, and look, everything reverts back to the mean, and the mean is 100 is about $100. Could it do that tomorrow? So, same thing. So, I mean, the $130 puts are $3, so it'd be the same thing. Do you just do you risk the $3? But here's the part I got to emphasize is that, I talk about when momentum's lining up and doing a bigger trade, there's a couple things that happen with that. One, I'm not going to do a big trade that expires tomorrow, right? It's like, okay, I'm making this big trade, and the next morning to the downside, if it gaps up, I'm dead. It's like, good God, did I just lose 10% of my account on that? That's irresponsible. This account, I will normally trade 100 lots. On something like this, I would do 10 contracts. So I think that's important to emphasize. This is just not, this is just some moment. It's if I was going to do a bigger trade, okay, yeah, if I think it's going to go to 100, great. I'm going to come over here and, look at the June monthlies and then just say like, okay, I'll get some slightly in the money puts. Oh my God, they're $20. So, you have to do it probably like a debit spread, like the 130. Anyway, there's easier ways. I think there's easier things happening out there right now is the main point. There is a lot of consolidation happening in crypto right now. Robinhood has bought 3 crypto firms, Kraken. They just bought Ninja Trader. Pretty fascinating. Yeah. Okay. So AVGO, let's look at that for earnings. So for AVGO, I would say that similar to NVIDIA, I think the earnings are priced in. Like they could be fantastic. And are we going to explode up from here? We might, right? But I look at this and say, this looks priced in. So I think someone mentioned that the risk is to the downside. I would agree. But I think it also could be something like NVIDIA where it's just, it just kind of stays within the expected move. Who bought Ninja Trader? Kraken. Am I saying that right? It's that crypto firm. Yeah, John, do you trade? Do you clear on Kraken, or who do you use for Bitcoin? Kraken. Thank you. Kraken didn't sound right. Release the Kraken, like the big squid. Okay, so for AVGO, I think there's 2 trades to do on here. Implied volatility 153%, expected move $16. So the first trade is simply saying that, okay, the market makers have priced this in correctly. Not incorrectly, they've priced it in. They've priced the move in correctly. And so for that trade, what time is it? Oh, we got 10 minutes. Man, time flies when you are having fun. So I'm going to go, let's do the 260, 280. And then the 260. Dun, dun, dun. 260, 240. So $20 wide. And it's just all about the risk to reward, right? So in this case, my max loss is 6,800 against a max gain of 13,000. And really what you're looking for is, can you buy it back at a 40% or 50% of the credit received? And if it gaps up and you look for it to come back down and vice versa. So I like that. And I like to make it a little bit wider than the expected move to give it a little bit of cushion. And then from here, I'm just going to kind of, again, position size. The key with this stuff, because it's kind of you want a position size is if it's going to go to max loss. And that's the whole secret with a trade like this, because it's a binary event. you have less control over it. And I'm kind of getting down here in the middle just so I can get filled. All right. And then, the question is what happens if it's larger than expected to the downside? I'm kind of intrigued by, do I buy some cheap 235 puts? That wouldn't add a lot of risk to the trade. Just in case it absolutely pukes. And you could also do that to the upside if you want to. I'm not sure. Let's see. If I wanted to do that, again, because it adds more complexity and cost to the trade, right? So then you'd go to like the 285 call. So if it blows through it, it gives you a little bit of, so you're kind of covered on both sides, but it also means that if it stays within the expected move, you need to, you're going to have to get 11, buy it back at least at 11 just to break even. Not the end of the world. Now, the 285s, it's definitely skewed to the upside here. Like they're the calls there are more expensive. So I'm gonna go with the 295s because they're the same price. So kind of by doing it this way, you're kind of covered for a big move and a quiet move. And then the worst thing would be, we open up at say, you know, 285 and trade there all day. And then, so anyway, hopefully that all makes sense. For AVGO earnings, I'm starting with an at the money iron fly, which would benefit from an expected move. And then I'm also buying out of the money puts and calls in case there is a surprise one way or the other. All right, so that's AVGO, and we can watch it. $4 billion to buy. Geez. Okay, let's get back to the SPX. Yeah, and by the way, AVGO, I mean, you bullish, you got to be bullish semis, right? It's the wave of the future on so many different levels. So this is just more about the earnings reaction. Oh, nice. Yeah, and I'm gonna hold Tesla overnight. So I think that move is way, 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 way overdone. Let me check in on our trades real quick. Okay. Oh, it's AVGO. We bought some Fudu. Meta, Microsoft looking good. SPX, nice trades today. And we got Tesla, which is going up. Okay, cool. So anything else to do here on SPX into the last few minutes? There's 4 billion to buy. I don't know if that's a great fake out. $59.37. Let's take a quick last look at Spot Gamma. Again, look at this right here. 59.30. We're just kind of walking back down to it. But then you got this huge strike here at 59.50. Again, it's just one of those days. So we lost money on this. Okay. No, we'll look at PLTR2. Yeah, it's almost like the MOC sometimes is a fake out. All right, we got 5 minutes. Yeah, I feel like I'm playing with hand grenades here. I'm gonna I'm gonna get in if we get back up to 59.50, if I can get these at 50 cents. So slow or 40 cents. Let's see if I can get them. Okay, so I got the 59.45 calls at 40 cents. Again, likely could go to zero. Um, but if we go to that 59.50 level, then it's pretty sweet. I'm just gonna let them both cash settle. Like this is not this isn't the trade of the day, right? It's just like let's see if we can kind of capture some of this weird end of day movement. And whole lot of schniznit here happening at the moment. Yeah, TLT was showing some promise. Really good day yesterday. Had started off today strong, kind of, still kind of finding its groove there. What a weird. It's funny. Like today is kind of a strange day, but I like these kind of days because it's very it's very methodical. It's let's come down, let's drift back up. Na na na. These days make sense. Yeah, well, for TLT, I did want to give it through the first week in June, so we're almost into that's almost done. So I'll hold it in through tomorrow, and then kind of give it a few days. I mean, it's kind of technically still poised to rally into the first week of July, but at some point, it's kind of like, are there better things to do with our time? Yeah, let's give it. I'm gonna look at it till next weekly. I mean, the reason I'm giving it more time is because we got July, so we can afford to give it a little bit more time. And TLT is not, when it cycles, it has these nice steady trends, and it just hasn't caught yet. I mean, it certainly bottomed, but it just hasn't caught. All right, 3 minutes left. You can see this little again, these little charm. I just, for lack of a better term, I just call them charm pockets. They just kind of attract. So 59.30. Already, yeah, nice. I mean, yeah, it was up nice this morning from all the stuff we legged into, and I think that's fine. I think is Trump taking out his taco nickname on Elon. I wonder if behind the scenes they're texting each other like, "Bro, let's act like we're in a fight," or if they're like really, if it's a real thing. Yes. So there's a couple of like tweak setups on the momentum indicators because we've had some users, some of our longer time members also kind of test them out and incorporating the feedback. Just wanted to make sure that the idea behind them was kind of like what they're seeing too. And so just we like to make sure we get all that in there. And then I'll be showing some more examples and stuff tonight. Yeah, I think it's like I'm kind of finding now it's always nice when you do something like that and it's like, oh, a chart looks naked without it, and that's kind of the feeling with it, which is great. Yeah, D-Day, it's probably two. I mean, I think he's kind of like, look, man, what? Look at the sales. He's like, oh, yeah, oh god, they're going at it. That's like a bathroom brawl. Oh, hey Tim, we're gonna go to Pelican, Alaska. So you go to Juneau and then you take like a 4 hour ferry or a 40-minute plane ride, puddle jumper, and it's great. Somebody posted that tweet. I was like, oh my god, that's slinging some mud right there. Yeah, Pelican's this amazing. Yeah, look at that. If you guys ever fish in Alaska, it's a High Liner Lodge. So, this is where, oh gosh, where is it? I'm sure they got photos. So, I think they got a shot here of the town, but this is saltwater, and then you go out, you can catch fish there, but then you go out in the ocean, which isn't that far away. There, and there's a bar right here. 50 people live here, and it's great. I mean, it's just a very, it's like 8 boats that fish out of there. Yeah, it was amazing. Like if you it's I just it was great. So we're obviously going back. We like it. But anyway, it's great. And of course when you're there, the sun's up 24 hours. That's weird. Take a sleep mask. Yeah, I think I can show you guys I'm trying to make sure my oldest goes as well. He didn't go with us last time. Get some time off of tech and all that fun stuff. Oh my god, I gotta use my authentication app. That's probably a good thing. And then we'll see what AVGO does. Instagram, okay. 9722264. Trust this device. Yes, again. So I'm just trying to find so this is Bambi. When I'm trading in Wimberley, I'm in Austin today. If we leave the door open, she'll just kind of come in and check things out, which is always hilarious. And where is this is my daughter and I went to Babson for a week as entrepreneurial week. Speaking of fentanyl, so this guy's on fentanyl right now. He was a male kudu that we needed to transfer. So you dart him with a gun, right? Dart him with fentanyl, and they just kind of you can see he's just kind of like, peace out, man. And then you got to load him up onto the trailer, and then you shoot him with Narcon or whatever that is, and then he snaps out of it. But you got about a 20-minute window because it'll kill him. But that's the only way you're going to get him loaded. And so he's just kind of hanging out there. And then we did this too. This guy is a bongo, and so we darted him. He's heavy, so it took 6 of us to move him. And that's it's crazy. So these people all know what they're doing. I'm just helping out. And so that's one coral snake. And then I'm trying to. Oh, so here's the. So this is us in Pelican last year. So king salmon. These are like rockfish that are really good. Halibut. My daughter caught this halibut that was 105 pounds. King salmon, pretty amazing. That was another 100-pound halibut. Anyway, it's great. I mean, great family trip. These are the kangaroos that we sent to Necker Island. That's Richard's assistant, Helen. She's like, anyway, fun stuff. Trying to see if there's anything else. Is that it? That was all the things. Oh yeah, this is when we were first got our animals, and this is an oryx. It was on the wrong side of the fence. So I'm trying to move it, and I totally Tony Robbins this. I visualized me being able to move the oryx, and I put the most muscle I could into moving it. It didn't budge 1 inch. So positive visualization, the visualization did not work at all. Kind of like in trading, you don't want to visualize a trade working out. You want to visualize that you're following your rules. Yeah, and it was mad. Like when I was done, I thought I was like, I had a moment there. It was like going, "Is this thing gonna kill me?" let's see. Anyway, that was that. So let's see, is AVGO out yet? Yeah, I'm about, if you positive visualization is great, but in trading you got to be careful. You can visualize yourself as a good trader that follows your rules, but if you visualize that this trade's going to work out no matter what, you're dead. Yeah, so the webinar, which is actually tonight, I think yesterday I was saying it was tonight, it's tonight. So the webinar I'm doing tonight, it'll be about the Momo indicators. If you've already got it, great. You don't need to attend. If you want to, I'll be showing more examples. And then of course this Saturday, I'm going to be going over, more examples, making sure you know how to use it. And then we're setting up for live trading. I don't know if it's next week or the week after. It's been kind of a blur lately. There's a lot going on. But of course, we'll on the class we'll focus specifically on utilizing that tool. So we'll definitely be recording. We'll definitely be recording on Saturday. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a busy week. I need to make sure I'm doing my yoga, keep my head clear, lay off the ketamine. That was a joke. All right, let's just see. Does anybody know what time AVGO earnings are coming out? Like, I don't want to sit here for an hour, but if it's going to come out in the next 10 minutes or so. 4 p.m. is a conference call. Stacy, semiconductor sector is showing signs of a cyclical bottom. Yeah, where were you like 2 months ago when it actually bottomed? Oh, are they? Okay, let's take a look at those. Yeah, that makes sense. 315. Okay. Lulu. Yeah, who wants to buy used yoga pants? So this is actually something that's interesting to see because I think one of the questions right now is that there is uncertainty in the economy. So what are people cutting back on? People are going to eat, right? But do they need another pair of yoga pants? So that's interesting. DocuSign, sales guidance from, yeah, okay. Might be an overreaction. Yeah, you don't need as many yoga pants, right? Interesting. It's funny now. I can't remember now the last time I've had to sign a document like physically. It's been a long time. Like everything's, even when I bought Simpler back, it was all DocuSign or the equivalent. Which is great because doing it and then like scanning it is it's such a pain. So much easier. Yeah, so much easier. Well, and yeah, and Restoration Hardware got absolutely obliterated on earnings too, right? I mean, this chart won't show it, but yeah, I think with real estate, where you got to be careful is that happens like with wires. There's smart hackers out there that you wire something to the wrong institution and it's gone forever. So you definitely want to call and all that fun stuff. Wow, Rick, I didn't know it's been around that long. Oh, let's go back to intraday. Good point, Mitch. Oh, interesting, Chuck. Okay, that's a good quote. That new furniture sofa is the first to go and last to come back when money is tight. Got the auto pen going. Oh yeah, let's look at PLTR. Yeah, so PLTR, it came down pretty hard today. I mean, I like the stock, from a longer term perspective, but it's going to be, you got the volatility there. So let's look at PLTR just from a regular chart. PLTR. So down 10 today. And again, structure wise, not horrible. I mean, certainly we broke through support, right? And that's where you get kind of that liquidity rush. And then if we're looking at it from a day trading perspective in terms of that's that was a 10-point bounce in Tesla right there from when that set in. If we look at it from just a day trade, it's like, okay, how do you have confidence that the down move is going to keep going? And so a couple things here. So on these 15-minute charts, I'm really kind of looking at, especially the reversals. Those are pretty substantial. And then, on the 5 and the 2, you're just kind of looking like, oh, we're getting momentum. And then when it turns gray, it just kind of means that the momentum is kind of slowing. But if you don't see in this case that green reversal, you're not really looking for much to the upside. And then finally, you got one kind of towards the end of the day. So I'll be talking. The gray is actually helps a lot too. So it's looking at all the things there. Dear God, the space. Okay, I need to bring up Twitter. I mean, I'm missing all kinds of stuff. Elon must be locked in a room. Like somebody, they're banging on the door, like, get him off the computer. Is it time to create a new political party in America that accurately represents 80% of the middle? Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him. Elon Musk, yes. Dear God. He's in the Epstein files. That's it. Have a nice day. Wow. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Man, that was probably the biggest breakdown of a bromance in the history of Earth. Um, Elon has never asked for a thing. I mean, I got rid of him, but he's never asked me for a thing. I think it's an amazing attribute. Yeah. Man, that's a grab the popcorn and watch. It's insanity. Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't make this up. Like if this was on a Netflix series, you'd say this is an exaggeration. Nobody would speak to each other like that in public. All right, AVGO's out. Let's see. Initial flush down. Remember, the expected move is 16 points. So if it moves up or down 16 points, that's expected. Yeah, like House of Cards was tame compared to this. So move down 12 points. It's holding. Can you imagine if you're, a world leader right now and you got your assistant coming in like, have you seen what's going on Twitter between Elon and President Trump? All right, so the expected move would take us to about here. So we'll see if, and of course, a lot can happen overnight. So it looks like it beat by a smidge. So really, it's just going to be their go forward guidance. You know, man, look at they found somebody closed a deal at the last minute, 15.8 billion versus 15.79 billion estimate. They're probably like, all right, look, I know this contract's 300 grand, but if you sign it today, you can have it for 100 grand because we have got to beat cage fight. They need a cage fight. Matt, that was interesting too. I was kind of, I'm kind of a fan of take your kid to work day, but that was a little odd. So no, on the 2 minute chart is a little, smaller time frames. They're a little dicey. I'll show you. Let me show you the one that we were looking at today that we did in terms of the trade that we did this morning. So this is the put credit spread from this morning. And if you see, so when I first got in here when I got that green arrow. So I sold the put credit spread, and then we're still floundering. So I was probably a little early, but then I was a little early. But then I don't mind getting a little early because that's the first sign. Then you get the gray, so that's good. And then you get the gray, and then on the slightly higher time frame, the 5 minutes, you get the green, and that's usually that's the turn. So what that means is that the momentum to the downside and to support is now loosening up because when it goes pretty quick, and then boom, we actually went pretty quick. And I'll go through these in detail, obviously during the class and stuff like that too. And it's should be impeached. I mean, it's funny. I think in any company, the number one challenge is in any company is communication, and it's being able to communicate in a way where you can be transparent, not take things personally, all the things. And it's amazing when you see what's happening, right now on Twitter, and you just have like two adult men with um egos, whatever triggers are coming up from their childhoods, right? Their defense mechanisms, they're totally unconscious and just letting it play out versus like, can we just have a conversation? I have worked with a couple of people with huge egos though, and it's not worth it. I mean, there's healthy egos, and then there's the classic extreme narcissism. And healthy egos, like you got to have a healthy ego if you're gonna go out and do stuff. But when it borders on narcissism, and you can tell, you start to it takes a minute, but it starts to set in, and it's just like, get me away from this human. Okay, so right now our iron fly is looking pretty good on AVGO. Those extreme ones would expire. I mean, obviously a lot can happen between now and the open. Rift was like, this was expected. And you imagine like people reading about this 100 years from now, and then the Twitter war happened. And from that point on, well, insane. So it won't be boring, that's for sure. They are worse than teenage girls on Snapchat. Maybe they both accidentally ingested too much ketamine today. Or I guess if they're on ketamine, they wouldn't really be responding because they wouldn't care. All right, guys. Well, I think that's a wrap. So I will be doing the webinar tonight at 7. Updates on the Momo indicators, of course, and if you do already have it and got it, great. You're first in line for when we release them after the webinar, and you can start playing around with it. And of course, Saturday will be the class, which will be a lot of fun. And anyway, should be fun. They're now part of a key part of at least any charts that I'm looking at, and always like to find things like that to make things a tad easier. And now, in addition to watching my Twitter feed, I want to continue to update the slides for tonight to show some of the action and trades that we did from today, and then we'll see what sets up. Never a dull moment. All right, guys, have a good one. See you tonight, and then I'm doing the close tomorrow as well, so it should be a lot of fun, especially with all this proverbial shit show happening. Kind of keeps things volatile. All right, guys.